How do you bring in your communities of color? As I look around this room and see that we're rather white.
Yeah.
And we certainly have diversity in our community.
That is a great question and a challenge more than Shakopee faces. Burnsville, no doubt, faces that. Something I did in partnership with our superintendent is we forged a positive relationship with a particular gentleman in the Somali community in Burnsville. His nickname is Hitu, which means tall, skinny guy. That's a hoot. His name is Hitu, and he's the director of the Somali Education Center in Minneapolis-St. Paul, as well as in Burnsville. But more importantly, he's a community leader. He's a well-respected individual by the Somali community. And we basically, the superintendent and I, called him in and said, bring a couple folks with you, let's talk. It's that simple. Come in here, let's talk. And we went to their turf. We went over and saw the Somali Education Center and said, well, we like what you're doing. Talk to us more about why you're doing that. As we forged that relationship, we built a bit of momentum with a few parents. And then we scheduled, they wanted, and we were more than happy to do this, pull together an evening when we could bring in the Somali parents and as many principals as we could. We got about 2/3 of our principals there. And we really just had a sit-down conversation with the moms and the dads in the Somali community about their culture, about how it is it's difficult for them due to the language barrier to come into our buildings and have communication with us. It wasn't a magic bullet, but it was a start to a conversation, and it linked principals and parents together, and we broke them out purposefully by, if you're in the western part of the district and the eastern part of the district, or the central part of the district, so they could start to forge some relationships. Some of our schools are doing some other things that are very cool. One of our junior highs in Burnsville, before school started, the teachers rallied around and did open house in the apartment complex that holds a significant number of Somali parents and kids. I think that's just an outstanding example of how we need to be forging real relationships and understanding that it requires us going to their turf instead of always expecting people to come to our turf. For people that don't speak English, that's a big deal, to go in and reach out to them and say, we care about you and we want to help you. We're also exploring some other things that I think we're going to have to wrestle with here in Shakopee. We haven't done this yet or pulled the trigger on it, but we're exploring partnerships with the Burnsville City and the county to use the infrastructure of the district, technology-wise, to push in district wireless network connections into these low-income housing complexes, to try to get connectivity for students after hours, so they have some way to get online and engage in 21st century learning. That's made some headway. We haven't been able to totally get that done here in the past several months, but I think that's another example of some of the very intentional, deliberate work that we're going to have to do in order to forge those relationships. I think the bottom line comes down to really being intentional about forging relationships with people and saying, I want to be part of this with you. Now help me get some inroads into this community so we can have open dialogue. The experience with Hitu has really helped me appreciate how meaningful that can be and how powerful that can be if it's cultivated correctly.